What's going on, friends and followers? This is your man, your Ace Boom Coon, Intergalactic Brew. You already know. Wanted to come on here and do a video, man, cause being that we're just one day away from UFC 149, Faber versus Barao, I wanted to do something on the middleweight division, because it seems like throughout this summer it's been the summer of the middleweights. Who would have ever thought that? And it also seems, unless I'm wrong, y'all correct me if I am, the middleweight division is rapidly becoming the most popular and also the most talented division in the mixed martial arts. I mean, seriously, like, the middleweights have taken over the summer. I mean, from Anderson Silva and Chael Sonnen. Then we had Chris Weidman, Mark Munoz, Tim Kennedy, Luke Rockhold. You know what I mean? You got guys like Lorenzo Larkin and Robbie Lawler. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's just wild just how the middleweight division is just, you know, kind of taken over from the other divisions. You know, it used to be the lightweight division was the most talented division in the UFC. By the way, I'm doing this on the UFC middleweight division, this video, but I'm just giving my overview of the middleweight division in general. But yeah, it used to be in the UFC that the lightweight division was the most talented division in the company. But apparently the middleweights have been like, F y'all, we taking over. So basically, I just want to do a brief UFC middleweight video and talk about some of the future matchups that I would like to see. And y'all can post your comments and join in the combo, the powwow with me, if you will, on who you would like to see in the future as far as the middleweights are concerned. Now, I've thought this over in my head for the past couple of weeks, and being that Chris Weidman, the All-American Chris Weidman that is, has just completely blown up onto the middleweight scene. He's been a prospect for a little bit now, but after that devastating victory over Mark Munoz, say what you want about Munoz, you know, layoff or whatever, it was still impressive. So say what you want, but Chris Weidman is blown up on the middleweight scene officially as a top contender. So basically, now that we have him added into the circle, along with Alan Belcher, Michael Bisping is still there, of course Chael, whether you all like it or not. I wouldn't say Brian Stann. I would more so say Vitor than Brian Stann, because, you know, in my opinion, the loss to Chael Sonnen, that kind of brings Brian Stann out of the circle, or not really out of the circle, it's more so has him outside of the circle as opposed to in it, if that makes any sense. But I guess, you know, the media and the UFC are putting Brian Stann in that circle of contenders. So I mean, whatever. But if you ask me, I think the top contenders in the UFC are Chael, Bisping, Belfort, Weidman, Belcher, Lombard, Tim Boetsch. Period. That's it. So basically, like I was saying, I'm gonna give you my list of future matchups that I would like to see in the UFC middleweight division, preferably in the upcoming months, so to speak. Okay, so here we go. First fight I would like to see, and this is probably one that everybody wants to see because it's one that everybody's been talking about, is Chris Weidman and Alan Belcher. Reason why I want to see this fight, both of these guys are gaining momentum in the division. Both are still young, and both have a couple of fights ahead of them, I should say, before they challenge Anderson Silva for the middleweight crown. So, being that Chris Weidman is on a roll and Alan Belcher is on a roll, I'd say you put those two youngins together and let them clash to see who takes the next step over the other. And I think it would make for a spectacular fight because both guys are extremely well-rounded. I mean, you got Chris Weidman, who's got the D1 level wrestling, along with the superior jiu-jitsu and improved striking, as opposed to Alan Belcher, who has excellent striking, excellent jiu-jitsu, and improved wrestling. So both guys are very similar. That's why I think it would be an excellent fight. I mean, I know I heard Vitor Belfort coming out saying that he wanted a piece of Weidman, but I mean, that would be a good fight too, but I would just put like two young future stars who are in their prime against each other and just have them duke it out to see, you know, who would take the next step in becoming the #1 contender. That's what I think. Y'all let me know what y'all think and who y'all would want to see. Maybe some of y'all would want to see Vitor Belfort, Chris Weidman. I would welcome it, but I would rather see, you know, two guys on the same level. Not saying that Weidman is not on Vitor's level, but you know, I would just rather see two guys who are in the same stage right now of their careers. So Chris Weidman, Alan Belcher, that would be my first one. My second one, depending on how the outcome of this fight goes, if Tim Boetsch somehow loses to Hector Lombard, which I still think he has a good chance of winning that fight, by the way, but if Tim Boetsch were to somehow lose to Hector Lombard, I'd say he would square off with the loser of Brian Stann, Michael Bisping. Simple. I mean, either one of those fights would make for a good pay-per-view because, you know, Tim Boetsch is tough. He's got good striking, superior wrestling, D1 level, and he's well-rounded. I mean, we haven't seen a lot of his jiu-jitsu, but we've seen, you know, portions of it. But in all, I think Tim Boetsch is a versatile fighter, very versatile. So I think you match him up against Brian Stann or Bisping, and I think he gives him a tough time. So definitely Tim Boetsch versus the loser of Bisping Stann. And let's see. As far as Belfort is concerned, I would probably have Belfort. I'd probably have Belfort and Chael. Hell, why not? You know? I mean, Chael's been calling out Belfort for a long time. Not as much as he called out Anderson, of course, but he did mention Vitor Belfort's name a lot in his infamous press conferences, which are classics, by the way. But yeah, definitely put Vitor Belfort and Chael against each other. I think it'd be good for both of them. You know, I know Chael's coming off a loss and Belfort's coming off a win, but I think, you know, this would be a great motivator for Chael to test himself against another superior striker and see how he fares against him. So there you go. So that's pretty much it. So I got Weidman versus Belcher. Boetsch, if he should lose to Hector Lombard tomorrow night, take on the winner of Bisping and Stann. Same thing goes for Hector Lombard as well. Should he lose to Tim Boetsch on Saturday, I think you put him in there with the loser of Bisping and Stan. So let me rephrase. I got Weidman versus Belcher. Put it like this. The loser of Lombard Boetsch faces the loser of Stan Bisping. We'll do it like that. Belfort versus Sonnen. And yeah, that's about it. Yeah, that's about it. So yeah, that about does it. I think that's the only way to really trim down the contender circle to see who is the undisputed #1 contender. I mean, Chris Weidman, yeah, he is making a strong campaign for being the #1 contender, because that beat down and ownage of Munoz was nothing short of wonderful. So yeah, that is a strong evidence, or not evidence, a strong campaign, I should say, of putting Chris Weidman as the #1 contender. But for some reason, I think maybe 1 or 2 more fights should do it. I really think you should test him against the true best in that division. You know what I'm saying? Like a Belcher, like a Sonnen, like a Belfort, even a Bisping, even. I mean, whatever. If Bisping loses against against Brian Stan, I mean, put Chris Weidman in there against Bisping. I mean, I don't care. But I mean, the bottom line is, Chris Weidman really needs to test himself against the top 4 or 5 guys in the middleweight division. I definitely agree with that. Now, at the same time, I also, to a certain extent, think that Weidman is worthy of getting the next title shot against Anderson. But at the same time, aside from Munoz and Maia, those are really the only 2 top fighters he's beaten in the middleweight division. So I think you give him 2 more against either Alan Belcher, who I just predicted, or either, against Bisping, Belfort, or Chael Sonnen. Simple. So yeah. But definitely Chris Weidman, Alan Belcher. That's the fight that I'm shooting for, though. And like I said, the losers of Hector Lombard, Tim Boetsch, and Michael Bisping and Brian Stan should face off against each other. And I think you should make Vitor Belfort versus Chael Sonnen. And that should solve the puzzle of who is the undisputed #1 contender. You know what I'm saying? Because, put it like this. If Hector Lombard beats Tim Boetsch impressively, basically knocks him out or submits him in the first round tomorrow night, then you could put Hector Lombard against Chris Weidman. Now, should Weidman defeat Lombard and you still don't think Weidman is worthy, then like I just said, you put him in the octagon against the loser of the Bisping Stan match. Okay? And then if he beats either one of those guys, then obviously he's the next contender. Meanwhile, while that's going on, since Chael Sonnen is still in the mix of contenders in the middleweight division, like I say, you put him against a Vitor Belfort or either a Tim Boetsch, rising middleweight contender, or either put him in there against Alan Belcher. I mean, you could really, play Connect 4 with this whole thing. You could really mix and match either of these guys. You know what I'm saying? But being that Chael is now, I'm not going to say out of the circle, but then again, like I said, like about Brian Stann, outside of the circle. Being that Chael is outside of the circle, all he would need is just one more significant win, or just one significant win to be exact, and that'll put him right back in that contender circle. Now, Brian Stann, on the other hand, he would have to defeat Michael Bisping impressively to officially get put in the contender circle. Because let's be honest, Mike Macenzio, Alessio Sakara, Chris Leben, Jorge Santiago, they're all good fighters, but they're not top contenders. I'm just being honest. I'm just being honest. Now, had he knocked out Chael in his fight with Chael, then okay, welcome to the top contenders circle, Brian Stann. But we all know what happened there. He didn't get it done. So now he has a chance to redeem himself and officially put himself in that slot of top middleweight contenders with the win impressively, key word there, impressively, over Michael Bisping. So we'll see how that works out for him. But like I was just mentioning about Chael, all he would need is just one significant win against either an Alan Belcher, a Vitor Belfort, or even a Chris Weidman. You know? So we'll see how that works out. But all I gotta say, in all, the middleweight division is gotten very, very hot. Steaming hot, dare say. It has got steaming hot. Because now that you've got Chris Weidman officially on the scene now in the division, you know, the Joe Silva, he's gonna have some sleepless nights, man. He's gonna be waking up in some cold sweats for the next couple of months, because, you know, you just can't say, you know, Chael Sonnen, Michael Bisping, Vitor Belfort, and Alan Belcher, and Tim Boetsch. You gotta say Sonnen, Bisping, Belfort, Boetsch, Weidman, and Belcher. So yeah, Joe Silva, he's got his work cut out for him. I don't know how he's going to you know, sort this whole thing out, but if I know Joe Silva, he'll get it done. But yeah, those are basically my top, I guess, 5 future middleweight fights to determine the undisputed #1 contender. Again, I'll say it one more time. Weidman versus Belcher. The losers of Lombard, Boetsch, Stann, Bisping. Belfort and Belfort versus Sonnen. So that's 4. I didn't mean to say 5. I meant to say 4. So there you have it. You know? So we'll see what happens. But it should be an interesting next couple of months for the middleweight division. But all I gotta say, man, is these middleweights, they showing out. So the welterweight division I should say, the light heavyweight, the heavyweight, lightweight, y'all need to step it up, cause the middleweights are showing out, man. They are really proving themselves. I don't know what it is with my words. I'm getting tongue-tied. What is wrong with me, y'all? Too excited. Need to calm down. But yeah, the middleweight division is taking over. It's on the map. I mean, not that it wasn't on the map before, but it's really on the map now. Like, guys are really coming out and proving themselves. They're really making themselves known. I mean, even the guys that you didn't even know before, they're coming up now. Guys like Tim Boetsch, guys like Chris Weidman, guys like who else? I mean, even Brian Stan. You know, I mean, and just I mean, just middleweights in general. Luke Rockhold, Tim Kennedy. You know what I mean? Jacare Souza. I mean, these guys, they're making their presence felt. I mean, even Lorenz Larkin just beat Robbie Lawler last Saturday. They coming up, man. So the rest of the divisions in MMA, y'all got to get it together, because it seems like, you know, the flyweight, the bantamweight, and the middleweight division are outdoing y'all. So y'all need to pick it back up for real. But that's really all I gotta say, man. You know, the UFC middleweight division is very, very interesting, and it's going to be even more interesting to see how this whole #1 contender puzzle gets put together. So all we can do is just watch and keep watching. So until then, I'll see y'all next time. Deuces.